The storm clouds keep circling over Ibrox, and the atmosphere around Rangers Football Club is growing more tense by the day. Russell Martin's position is now hanging by a thread, with his future being questioned not just by supporters, but by key figures behind the scenes as well. What started as a rocky spell is fast turning into a full-blown crisis, and Chairman Andrew Kavanagh is right in the eye of the storm. The pressure on him is mounting too, because while the manager takes most of the heat in public, the decisions made in the boardroom are now under serious scrutiny. There's a sense that the club is stuck in limbo. Kavanagh's continued backing of Russell Martin might have looked like a vote of confidence a few weeks ago, but now it feels like stubbornness. Fans are no longer just angry about performances. They're beginning to feel completely disconnected from the club's leadership. And when more than 12,000 seats are empty at Ibrox on a European night, that tells you everything about how far things have fallen. Let's rewind for a second. Rangers did manage to squeeze past Livingston, but let's be honest, it was a last-minute escape against one of the weakest teams in the league. A match that should have been wrapped up by halftime ended in a frantic scramble for a winner, and even after the final whistle, the overriding feeling was not relief, it was frustration. The win papered over the cracks for a few days, but it didn't change the bigger picture. This is still Rangers' worst start to a league campaign in nearly half a century. Inside the stadium, the mood has soured beyond belief. Protests during the matches against Hibernian and GK made it absolutely clear the fans have lost patience. And the shocking defeat to GK in the Europa League only poured more fuel on the fire. The once electric energy that made Ibrox such an intimidating place for visiting teams has all but vanished. In its place is a flat, restless crowd that's tired of excuses, tired of underachievement, and tired of watching a team that doesn't look like it has a plan. Even the legends of the club are starting to speak out. Former midfielder Derek Ferguson didn't hold back when he called on the board to show some courage and finally address the situation. His message was direct. Come out, speak to the fans, and be honest about what's happening. Ferguson warned that the next home game could see even more empty seats, not because of poor weather or bad timing, but because supporters are making a statement with their absence. And when people stop showing up at Ibrox, it's not just about football anymore. It's about losing the trust of a fan base that has stood by this club through thick and thin. Andrew Kavanagh, who only took over as chairman in June, couldn't have imagined such a turbulent start to his leadership. But this is the reality he's now facing. The longer he holds firm on Martin, the more supporters start to question his judgment. Many feel the connection between manager and fans is broken beyond repair, and every week that passes without a clear plan from the top just deepens that divide. Looking ahead, things don't get any easier. Rangers now face two massive away fixtures before the international break, one against Sturm in the Europa League, the other against Falkirk in the Scottish Premiership. These games aren't just about points anymore. They're about keeping the season alive. They're about holding on to what little faith is left. And if results don't go Rangers' way, Kavanagh might be left with no choice but to act. Because whether he likes it or not, time is running out. Russell Martin's only hope of survival is to string together wins. Not scrappy, last-minute ones, but real statements that show progress and belief. But right now, every slip-up just weakens his position further. There's no room for error, no margin for hesitation. It's win or bust, not just for him, but for Kavanagh as well. His credibility is on the line, and so far, there's not much to convince supporters that he's got a firm grip on the situation. The truth is, the problems at Rangers go far deeper than what happens on match day. Chris Boyd said it loud and clear, this isn't just about the manager. This is about recruitment, strategy, leadership. And Boyd is asking the questions everyone else has been whispering for weeks. What exactly are the sporting director and head of recruitment doing? Where's the plan? What's the long-term vision? Let's talk about that for a moment. Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy were brought in from Everton to lead a new era of smart, strategic recruitment. But what do Rangers have to show for it so far? One of the most questionable signings of the summer, a striker like Youssef Chermatai, costing somewhere between £8 and £10 million, who looks nowhere near ready to lead the line for a club of this size. It's a signing that sums up the confusion behind the scenes. A big gamble on an unproven player at a time when Rangers needed stability and quality. And fans have every right to be asking why that money wasn't spent more wisely. Then there's the so-called root and branch review of the football department, a grand statement meant to show the club was serious about change. But months later, there's nothing to show for it. No visible progress. No structural improvements. Just more vague talk and more disappointing results. Boyd was right to call it out. It looks like yet another empty promise from a board that talks a big game but rarely delivers. Even the process that led to Martin's appointment feels muddled in hindsight. Here was a manager who had been out of work, up against candidates with stronger records and higher profiles. And yet, he got the job. That decision now looks more and more like a gamble that hasn't paid off. Not because Martin doesn't care or isn't trying, but because the fit just isn't there. The performances on the pitch are flat, disjointed, lacking identity, and the longer this continues, the more that initial decision is going to be questioned. None of this is lost on the fans. They see a club that's struggling not just to compete, but to function properly behind the scenes. Every department, from recruitment to leadership, feels broken right now. And while the late winner against Livingston might have brought a moment of joy, it hasn't masked the reality. The supporters aren't fooled. They want answers. They want accountability. And they won't be satisfied with more delays, more excuses, or more blind loyalty to a project that isn't working. Russell Martin's time might not be up just yet, but the sands in the hourglass are running low. 2 wins before the break could buy him a bit of breathing space. But anything less, and the call that Kavanagh has been putting off may become unavoidable. And if the situation at Ibrox wasn't already complicated enough, now there's added noise from the international scene. Craig Bellamy, part of the Welsh coaching setup, has confirmed he's been in contact with Mikey Moore, the promising young Rangers loanee, in an effort to convince him to commit his international future to Wales. Moore, who was born in London and has already played for England at under-19 level, is eligible for Wales through his grandparents. The tug-of-war over his international allegiance is just another layer in what's become a crucial moment for his development. Moore's case is a fascinating one because he's not just a name for the future, he's part of Rangers' present, already making appearances since joining from Spurs. At only 18, he's shown glimpses of real quality, and while he's still finding his feet in the Scottish game, there's no question about his potential. For Bellamy and the Welsh FA, securing Moore would be a major coup, but the way the situation has been handled has raised a few eyebrows. Bellamy made it clear he would have preferred these discussions to stay behind closed doors, highlighting how public pressure doesn't help young players make such important decisions. And he's not wrong. For a kid like Moore, who's trying to prove himself at one of the biggest clubs in Scotland while also deciding where his international future lies, the spotlight can be overwhelming. It's the kind of pressure that can derail a career before it even gets going. And with all the chaos surrounding Rangers at the moment, the last thing Moore needs is to become a political football between 2 national teams. Yet here we are, another distraction for a club that desperately needs focus and clarity. But even beyond Moore's situation, this entire international break is going to be pivotal. Not because of who goes off to represent their country, but because of what happens in the time between matches. If Martin is still in charge come the break, and that's a big if, then this period has to be used for a total reset. Tactics, morale, player fitness, everything needs to be reevaluated. Because right now, there's no cohesion on the pitch, no spark, no sense of identity. Players look unsure, the shape is inconsistent, and even the basics seem to be missing. And that, again, comes back to leadership, both on and off the pitch. You look at the dugout, and you see a manager who looks increasingly isolated. You look at the boardroom, and you see decision-makers who seem paralyzed by the fear of getting it wrong. That kind of indecision is lethal in football, especially at a club with expectations as high as Rangers. There's no room for dithering. Not when the fan base is this angry. Not when the gap between the club and its supporters has grown this wide. The sad part is that this should have been a season of hope. A new chairman, a fresh start, new signings, new ambitions. Instead, it feels like the same old story. A squad that doesn't gel, a manager under fire, a boardroom silent when the fans need answers the most. And what makes it worse is that the same mistakes keep happening. Recruitment has been chaotic. There's no clear football philosophy. And communication with the fans has been virtually non-existent. All of this breeds one thing, distrust. And once supporters start to lose faith, it's incredibly hard to win them back. They need more than just words. They need action, clarity, and most of all, a sense that someone, anyone, is in control. Right now, it feels like no one is. Even the basic principles that used to define Rangers, aggression, intensity, pride, seem to have disappeared. The team doesn't look hungry. There's no bite in midfield, no confidence in attack, no leadership at the back. And this isn't just about tactics. It's about mentality. It's about building a squad that understands what it means to wear the badge and represent a club with this kind of history and support. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens with smart recruitment, strong leadership, and a clear vision. Rangers, at the moment, are lacking all three. What's particularly frustrating for the fans is that the problems are obvious. Everyone can see where the weaknesses are. Everyone can see that the current project isn't working. And yet, week after week, nothing changes. There's talk of patience, of building a long-term identity, of trusting the process. But the fans have heard it all before. At some point, the results have to match the rhetoric. And they're not. There are players in this squad who have ability. That much is clear. But ability alone isn't enough. They need to be part of a system that gets the best out of them. They need leadership on the touchline and in the dressing room. They need structure and belief. Without that, they're just individuals. And football is not a game for individuals. Especially not at Ibrox. The next few weeks will define this season. They might even define the next few years. Because if Rangers continue on this path, the consequences will be long-lasting. Sponsors, revenue, recruitment opportunities, everything is affected by performance and perception. And right now, both are dangerously low. It's not too late to turn it around. But that turnaround won't happen with blind hope or empty statements. It'll happen when real decisions are made. When leadership stops hiding and starts leading. When the people in charge stop worrying about appearances and start doing what's necessary, even if it's difficult. That's what great clubs do. That's what Rangers used to do. Russell Martin may still have a sliver of time to shift the narrative. 2 big wins, real, convincing performances, might just cool things down. But if that doesn't happen, the calls for change will be deafening. And if Andrew Kavanagh continues to delay, the anger that's currently aimed at the manager will land squarely on his shoulders. Because this is not just about one man in the dugout anymore. It's about a club that has lost its direction and is crying out for someone to take control. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The streets of Glasgow are buzzing with whispers that could shake Scottish football to its core. Word has it that Scott McTOMINAY, the Scotland international who only months ago packed his bags for Italy and signed with Napoli, is now on the brink of a dramatic return to Britain. This time not to Manchester United, but to Rangers. A move that seemed impossible a fortnight ago is being murmured in pubs from Govan to Gorgie. And if the chatter proves true, it would mark one of the most sensational transfers the Scottish game has seen in years. Sources close to the Rangers camp suggest the club's hierarchy have been in quiet but persistent contact with McTominay's representatives, and the midfielder himself is said to be very open to the idea of pulling on the famous Royal Blue. His stint in Serie A has been anything but straightforward, despite flashes of his powerful box-to-box game. Reports claim he has struggled to adapt to the tactical rigidity of Italian football and the linguistic barriers in Naples. What's more, Rangers see him as a ready-made talisman, a player who knows Scottish football, carries international pedigree, and brings the kind of grit and presence that can tilt a title race. Napoli, for their part, are reportedly willing to listen to offers if the financial package is right. Though they rate McTominay's qualities, whispers in the peninsula suggest the club are already looking at alternatives, which only fuels speculation that his time in Italy may be cut short. For Rangers, the chance to add a player of his caliber, an imposing figure with Premier League and Champions League experience, to their midfield engine room is almost too good to ignore. Fans are divided. Some see it as the perfect coup, a statement signing to rival anything Celtic could conjure. Others are wary, wondering if the rumor is little more than smoke without fire, another fanciful tale born from hopeful supporters. Yet the murmurs refuse to fade. The thought of McTominay stepping out at Ibrox, roaring in front of the Copeland Road stand, is one that sparks the imagination of thousands. Whether it becomes reality or remains the stuff of late-night whispers, the city waits with bated breath. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.